When you see this signal, you better run, because we have been paying attention to this signal for a little bit of time. We're going to get into this in the early parts of this video, and you have to be aware of this signal popping up because it is just that, a crash signal. So you have to be paying attention to it. Now, just to leave you a little cookie here, there is a way for us to actually go a little bit higher with this same chart right here, and that's what we're going to talk about today as we get into some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, and Meta, looking over at AMC and GME. Then we're going to pop over to the dollar and reiterate again on volatility. But first, let's start off with volatility and get into it. If you've been a part of this channel for quite some time, this is the exact thing that we said to look for. We said look for the reaction to the 200 and see if that can cross up. Now we have to see if that can go positive. This is a major crash signal because we do have the 50 crossing the 200. That is a major crash signal at that time. It's not every single time that this daily curls up that you really have to be paying attention to a major crash. It's when this is at the same time. So we have to be paying attention to that. We do see an extreme move in volatility. We saw some basing out signals here. Everything is playing out how we think. And the video we put out yesterday was overall saying, even if we try to head higher, we're not going to be able to go much higher, and most likely rug pull is on the table. We had that in the title of the video, and we get rug pulled early on in the day. Very, very good trades to be had there. But I wanted to quickly show you just on this little 15-minute chart, is this actually going to be able to curl up again? Because this is how volatility can subside. This signal is stating how the market can actually go higher, and that is volatility able to turn down on some bigger time frames, being the 30-minute and hourly chart. Now we do notice that that is a double top divergence there. We see that on the MACD. We see that very significant on the RSI, but we started to curl back around, not able to curl up by the end of the day. So if this curls up, hey, volatility might be coming in and daily momentum might be taking over, and bad things can really start to happen because we're in some key levels. We start to break those weekly ranges. We're going to talk about those in a second. But if this actually does reject here, then we can turn down on some bigger time frames. And I'm really paying attention to an hourly chart here by Friday close. I think if we do see this as some kind of reversal for volatility for the time being, and this pulls down towards something like 1683, that would be the perfect area for us to start to bounce back up. Now, is this going to take more time? That's the thing here. So what I'm going to be paying attention to, I'm just going to tell you exactly what I'm paying attention to if this actually heads down. Obviously, if this turns back up, daily momentum's with you, and we might already be seeing something bad. But I think we have a couple of days before we get unemployment data, before we get non-farm payrolls, that if people can kind of shake off what's going on in the news right now, maybe we actually do see some kind of trap to the upside as the dollar has bottomed out. So what I'm going to be paying attention to if this actually heads down is if we do something like this. If we get some kind of reaction like this by, say, Wednesday, or even going all the way into Friday, maybe we're able to see some basing out signals here on a 30-minute chart. That's what we're going to be paying attention to. But there is your way up, there is your way down. And people always ask, what time frame is more important than the other? The higher time frame is the more important one. This, a daily chart, has more momentum in it than a 30-minute chart, than a 30-minute divergence. So this is the main thing you need to be paying attention to. And volatility says we are going higher. Even if stocks decide to go higher, as long as this remains crossed, volatility's back. But as we can see on the daily scale, we haven't turned over, and we do see a little wick here by the 20 near our little buy zone. So we can pay attention to that. There are some people still trying to buy the dip, and there are some signals to pay attention to. First of all, these lines have spread out. So today we did not have a large implied volatility. We mentioned in the video that sometimes when the implied volatility is small, these ranges that we give you can be very tight. And that's actually where you really want to pay attention if things are moving outside of it quickly, because we landed in these zones. 68% of the time we land in these zones, but some of the time, if you land in them repeatedly over time and you see some bad things in the news, we mentioned the port strike last Saturday. So if you need to, subscribe to this channel, because on Saturday we go over some macro stuff and look into some fundamentals, but for the most part following the technicals, because I think the technicals tell you first. Volatility popped on Friday. That caused me to go look for the fundamental thing, right? So that's why we were able to get that info to you pretty quickly. 573.92 to the upside for tomorrow's daily expected move upside, and the downside move is going to be 563.32. So the key thing here is if that daily crosses, bad things. But what I wanted to do was pull up into, I would say, a 15-minute chart. I really wanted to show the 15-minute chart because I think this shows a solid way down to create a divergence or something like that in our zone. So if we go create something like this, tomorrow, that can actually turn up hourly charts. So the thing about turning up an hourly chart here is an hourly chart is something to pay attention to, because we are still close enough to that center line where it says, hey, we could try to go higher if we get a basing out signal, right? Even if it does head down, curl down on that 50-minute, bad things. But if we create a reversal signal here, well then what if we actually curl up on this MACD and end up going a little bit higher, tricking people going into, say, Friday of this week? I think that would be very, very interesting to see the stock market actually head higher into Friday, and then they use the weekend, they use that options expiration to actually send stocks lower. So I think if you're looking for positivity, hourly turns up, that's your positive move. If the 15-minute rolls down early on in the day, then that's what you're paying attention to for reversal signals, and that looks like the bearish setup as of right now. And then the overall greater bearish thing is going to be if that bigger time frame, being the daily scale, is able to roll over on that MACD. Qs, we're going to leave this on an hourly chart and just talk about these are way spread out again, and it's right next to a weekly expected move. So we will be watching this live with you tomorrow, so make sure you're subscribed, and thanks so much for liking the video, because we did see the divergences here for the hourly chart, and that gave us a little hint, and that's why we started to talk about buying volatility on this channel last week. And we noticed, boom, big rug pull to the downside. Now we have to see if that hourly does turn up, we can see good things. So that's what I'd be paying attention to. If we see positivity early on in the day, see if we make an hourly move like this, and that is able to roll back down over the next couple of days. If we're actually going to head lower initially, I would still be paying attention to a 15-minute chart. I think you have the opportunity here, if the Qs are able to hold up around that level of 574, I would say the weekly expected move, which is right next to the daily. I think if you do something like this, you could create that basing out structure. So you could create some kind of divergence down here, is what I'm talking about, for the SPY and the Qs on the MACD and on the RSI at the same time. So that's what I'm going to be paying attention to. It looks like if we're going to head lower, we're just going to see a 15-minute rollover. And if that's going to be a little bit worse, then we're going to see this daily time frame be able to actually cross soon. That's going to be the key thing on the bigger time frames. If we make basing out signals, then we will be reacting. We trade like water on this channel. I know there's a bunch of things that are bad going out in the news. Doesn't mean we can't get one more rig move to the upside by Friday close, and then maybe we get a rug pull with something bad over the weekend. So these are kind of the things I'm paying attention to with the Qs: the daily rolling down, the 15-minute creating some kind of reversal signal for an upside move, and then seeing if that hourly can take us a little bit higher, maybe to go hit something like 499 by the end of the week. And then right when people think, hey, this is going to all-time highs again, there's a little bit of an uh-oh over the weekend. Key thing we were talking about with Apple was the fact that this could be some kind of false breakout, right? Some kind of divergence was created here. So you have to pay attention if that 2-hour rolls over. We roll over early on in the day, we go right back down into a buy zone. We violate that 225.84 level. So for this, if you want to see more positivity, the 2 hour is going to curl up. The problem here is you actually did cut below these levels, right? The closing bars are below these, meaning this does have potential to start that negative trend on a 30-minute chart. See how the 30-minute is very negative down there, right? We're pretty negative on this MACD down here. That tells me I have to be open to a lower high. So even tomorrow, I have to be aware that this could bounce up like this, go up, even come all the way up and fill that gap, and then watch out if that actually starts to roll over, because that may go into positive territory and roll right back down. So this is something key to understand right now, because I told you, if we start to break below this level, you have to be aware that the negative trend can begin fully here. Even if we get a cross up, that could be short-lived and cross back down. Now, if we're looking for positivity here, I really would like to get back to this level on a 30-minute. I really would like to see us scoot back up to this level, maybe get a reaction down, and then curl back up into positivity, into positive territory. And how that's going to look on your MACD is we curl up like this, we curl down, and that's able to make that next curl into positive territory, just continuing that flow, continuing that positive trend for Apple. Now, Tesla was one that actually gave some decent signals here for the triple divergence for the downside. So that actually did make that new low. And we talked about this live, how if you really zoom out here, you see a low, you see a higher low, you see a higher low, you see a attempt at a higher low, and it fails. And now you're violating both of these. So that is telling you that negative trend could continue if this 30-minute does roll down. Now you're trying to go positive in this moment. So there's always a chance, and most likely, right, according to this indicator, the most likely thing would be some positivity early on in the day. So look, if that wants to pop up above these highs for a moment, maybe take out some stops, and then pull back down, because that would give you another point of divergence here. That's something key to understand with Tesla. As far as the daily time frame goes for Tesla, you've been going up and up and up for a long time. It doesn't mean this has to be a full-on crash right now, okay? I know that the crash signal is there. We are aware that a crash can happen, but we always want to be trading like water. We really want to be paying attention to what the signals are telling us. So if I see us get down to these areas and then we see some kind of basing out signal here, earnings ends up being good, and we cross up on this MACD into positive territory, then we should expect more positivity from Tesla. So it's a good time to really be on your toes and really be managing your risk and really be paying attention to both sides as people are really trying to figure out which way this market could go. I think we have the opportunity to maybe see a slight upward push in a lot of stocks tomorrow and maybe even going on into Thursday. And then we have to watch out for unemployment data and non-farm payrolls. Little different story for something like Amazon, which has crossed down on its MACD. Now, if this needs some kind of shorter time frame consolidation, you can always consolidate for a moment here on the 2 hour. But if that 2 hour does cross up, you do have potential here to bounce a little bit higher. Now, what were we stating about Amazon if you're going to make the structure to head down? Well, you're going to react down to something like 184, right? These levels down in here would make sense. You got a little left shoulder, you have the head. Now we can maybe bounce for a bit of time and then see that turn down with that right shoulder. So that's something we're paying attention to with Amazon. As far as it goes right now on a 30-minute chart, the reason we're talking about this 2 hour able to curl up is Amazon actually does not have the worst signal down here. It's just really far away from the center line. So you do have the opportunity to go make another point of divergence down here. So I'd pay attention to that early on in the day. But if that does happen, you might be a little bit closer to this center line and able to go into a positive trend, which means that the 2 hour will be popping in some way. Okay, so if that 30-minute can go positive, 2 hour most likely rotates up, but we know because of this 2 hours look right now, very, very deep into negative territory for the MACD, that if that does pop up, it's going to struggle to get above this high for the most part. It is in negative territory, so the most likely scenario here is a lower high for Amazon. NVIDIA gave us that 2 hour reversal signal, just like we talked about, right? We talked about making a 2 hour divergence at the top of this zone. We went a little bit higher or up towards 125. So we ended up doing that. We crossed down. Now we're really close to seeing something bad because we're starting to go into negative territory. So something key here is going to be paying attention to the daily time frame. You see how if that daily time frame does roll down, you will be going into negative territory. You might be breaking through this structure here to actually head lower, maybe all the way down towards 95.63. So this is something I'll be paying attention to over the next few days, just seeing if this daily can rotate down. If things are going to rotate up right now, then the 2 hour will cross up and maybe we get rejected at that 125 again, or maybe we break to the upside. That's why we want to trade like water. As far as it goes for the 30-minute, you are very deep into negative territory with no reversal signals here for the 30-minute. So actually the most likely thing for NVIDIA, I would say, if the 30-minute even does roll up, is some kind of lower high again, because we have not made that basing out structure. So that's going to be key. Now, if we wanted to, this is the overall level we needed to react to. Maybe we're able to bounce from it. Maybe we pull down first, get that bounce up, and then we actually do have a left, a head, and a right shoulder to head to the downside for NVIDIA. AMD trying to make the same 2 hour divergence as NVIDIA, but really stronger, so not really giving the weakness and momentum here for AMD. So the first thing we said to pay attention to a couple days ago was a 2 hour pulling back to that broken out area of that triangle. So we're breaking out from this little wedge here. We can go get that retest, and maybe we're able to curl back up into positive territory because there's no reversal signals here. And as we look into a 30-minute, does that have a chance to reverse around? Well, we don't necessarily see reversal signals. So even if we did bounce here, maybe we need to turn down one more time and create some kind of divergence in order to actually turn that 2 hour up. So we could see some kind of small bounce that leads AMD into a downturn, which creates the stronger base and fakes people out to the downside. And then we'll have to pay attention to Friday, because we want to pay attention to this 2 hour. If this 2 hour is able to even go a little bit deeper, okay, just a little bit deeper down into here, well, it's going to be in negative territory. It's going to be hard for that to actually be able to bounce back up and take back this high, okay? It's going to be a little bit difficult. So we'll be paying closer attention to this. AMD, to me, is more, yesterday we had a few, and now we're able to talk about those stocks because they've had some time behind those. We've gotten some more bars. AMD now looks like one of those ones that you might need 48 hours to figure out which direction this actually wants to go over the next few days. Throughout all of this downturn, Meta has been able to hold up pretty strong, but it's still creating all those divergence points there. So this is going to be something very key to understand. That 2 hour looks like it wants to cross up, but we're getting that squeeze-like behavior on the 2 hour. So you do have divergence across this. You can see that very clearly on the MACD. You see that clearly on the RSI, even all the way back to here. You see that at this moment. So 30-minute curls down, bad things can happen, and that can reject this 2 hour. You see the 2 hour wants to curl up, but we had that squeezing behavior. So if that's going to stop very, very soon, you're going to see that 30-minute curl down. This 2 hour might reject and actually be able to go into negative territory as this hasn't pulled back yet. I would expect some kind of reaction if we do head lower very quickly down towards something like 550, and then we can see some kind of bounce, kind of giving you that cup and handle type of feel. For AMC, we were mentioning the 30-minute divergence here. We were talking a little bit about that live. So what you're wanting here is that 2 hour did cross here as well. So if you want this to get positive, hey, we're down in these levels. Can that 30-minute turn back up? That's what you need to happen in order to see something crazy. But the 2 hour has just crossed. So we do have the opportunity to head lower. We give the weekly expected moves on Patreon. If you need to learn how to use those weekly expected moves that we do give out, those are those 68% zones. They are very, very helpful. It is a helpful tool that not a lot of people use, and it is probably my favorite thing about trading is looking at those ranges and finding trades around them. It's a lot of fun. But if you need to learn how to do that stuff, there are 2 courses down there in the description. You can take the swing trading course for $50 right now. It is 90% off, and the other one is 90% off as well. You can take the using technical indicators course down in the description for $100, because that is going to teach you how to really trade around these weekly expected moves. So as of right now, from AMC, we really should expect more negativity and see if there's some kind of reversal signal here for AMC on the 2 hour, because you need the daily to turn up here. So a reversal signal would be fantastic to give you a little hint of, hey, momentum's dying out. If this turns around, that daily has a good shot of turning back up into positive territory there. So for GameStop, as we switch over to that, what's most likely here? Well, we created a 2 hour divergence. So we actually could see more weakness from GameStop, even on the daily scale. You could see the daily scale go down here to even create a double bottom at this point. So that's something to pay attention to. But has that curled over yet? No, it hasn't. But you have had the 2 hour able to confirm that divergence. If that heads lower and goes negative, you might be crossing over that daily. Look for basing out structure down here. If you still want to see something crazy, you got to get these 2 hour charts to turn back up into positive territory for both GameStop and AMC. It's a good thing that we were talking about the dollar, because we noticed the basing out structure here, and it's very similar to what we had right over here. So we were paying attention to it. Yes, it was more choppy, but that just means more liquidity, right? So we can see a bigger move. And we were wondering why this was able to hold up and not crossing down on a daily chart. Well, that's because it was creating all these divergences. We saw the reaction up, and that's where we said, watch out, right? That's where we were really saying, watch out, because this is meaning that there is going to be some reason for people to fly into cash. And we talked about that over the weekend, which was when we mentioned the port strike on Saturday morning. So make sure you're subscribed so you can see our Saturday morning videos. It will give you some insight into the bigger timeframes or some kind of fundamental thing. If we're seeing something funky in the market, we like to talk about it. It was a very short and sweet video, but it was just that. It was the exact thing we needed to be paying attention to for this moment. And thank you so much, and give yourself a big pat on the back and a high five, because I really appreciate you being subscribed to this channel. And this is something we have to pay attention to. So something key here is going to be, does the weekly time frame actually turn up over the next few weeks? That's something we'll be paying attention to in those Saturday videos. Main takeaway as we pop up volatility on your screen is this actually a crash signal? Are we going to see volatility scream back in with this actually confirming today? Or are we going to see that 85% chance of an up day over the next 2 trading sessions, because the volatility was up by 15%? That is over 10%, meaning we have an 85% chance over the next 2 trading sessions to see an up day, which doesn't mean we have to get a full reversal. We could get some kind of consolidation day that ends up being green, but we want to say, is this going to really explode right now? Or is that 15-minute chart going to be a big deal and end up causing us to go a little bit higher with stocks for the time being, and then we can come back in later on? So those are some key things to pay attention to for today. I hope you found this video helpful in some way, and thank you so much for watching. Thank you for liking, subscribing, doing all that stuff. You guys are fantastic about it. I look forward to streaming with you guys tomorrow morning. Stay safe out there. We told you to get groceries over the weekend for a reason. That reason is starting to come to light right now. So I hope you're prepared, and thank you so much for being a part of this community. I hope hope you have a fantastic night and your family is safe out there. And my condolences goes out to everyone who is being affected by the hurricane. And I really hope for safety all around for everyone out there, no matter who you're voting for, no matter what color you are, whatever it is. I really hope that you and your family are staying safe out there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Hope you have a good night. Peace.